Candidates that are running for political office with us today. The format for today is that I'm going to do a short introduction of each candidate that is here, and then they will be given they'll be given two questions. Each candidate will be given 5 minutes to answer each question, and we're just going to go pass it down the line. And everything is in alphabetical order. Our first race is Hawaii County mayoral candidates. We have Dr. Kimo Alameda, resident of Hilo, graduate of St. Joseph High School, PhD, University of Nebraska. He has 25 years executive experience with the state and the county level, and most recently with the Hawaii Island Community Health Center and its fentanyl task force. We have here also with us today Mayor Mitch Roth, current mayor of the County of Hawaii, former prosecutor for our county, and has worked to streamline the permitting process, affordable housing, homelessness, decreasing poverty, investing in parks, preservation of cultural resources, infrastructure, public transportation, and safety. We have State House of Representative candidates. First candidate, Monique Cobb Adams Pereira. Monique is focused on the affordability of living in Hawaii, concerned with Hawaii's having the highest cost of living and being the worst state to run a business, and supports lower taxes and fewer regulations. We also have with us David Tarnas, the incumbent, 38-year resident of Hawaii, has raised his family in Waimea, 5th term as House Representative, District 8, concerned with reducing the cost of living, public education, safety, environmental protection, and wildfire risk mitigation. We have 3 candidates in the race for County Council District 9. Cindy Evans, the incumbent, 26-year resident of District 9, former House of Representative for this district, focused on attainable housing, emergency preparedness, healthcare, workforce development, invasive species, solid waste, roads, and agriculture. Intent on working on collaboration, commitment, and forward thinking. Next, we have James Eustace. Resident of Waimea, graduate of Hawaii Preparatory Academy, focused on strengthening infrastructure, affordable housing, public access, community spaces, food, self-reliance, emergency services, resilience, and community collaboration. Very active in the community and has leadership roles with the Waimea Community Association, South Kohala Traffic Safety Committee, Democratic Party, Waimea Resilience Hub, Trails, and Greenways. Last, we have Michael Konowitz, a broadcast meteorologist and environmental news reporter. He is a scientist and not a politician. He would like to leverage his job skills of understanding complex problems and being a good communicator to keep us informed and active for a better tomorrow. He was the chair of the county's Cost of the Government Commission that made recommendations to the mayor and council on improving governmental operations.
So we have a set of questions. We'll just go down the line. We'll start with Dr. Kimo. What have you done to support agriculture on Hawaii Island in the past? And after hearing the panelists of our North Kohala needs, what is your commitment for the future of agriculture and water resources?
Yes. How much time I get?
5 minutes per question. Yeah. So 10 minutes.
That's too much time, man.
Okay, 7 then. How much more do you get?
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna stand up because I don't like this thing blocking my way from everybody. So, all right. Hey, so I get to be first. Kimo Alameda, born and raised on the Big Island. I get family everywhere. Is somebody timing them? Okay, let me know when I get about 1 minute left. All right. So hey, it's just so happy to be here in Kohala. I forgot my cowboy boots, but I just saying, this is a place that is dear to me. I get family here. Like I said, you know, this is the Big Island is my home from Hilo, but I get family in every part of the island. And so for me, when it comes to farming, ranching, fishing, that's how I was raised. So in Hilo, 25 acres of Mauka is plenty, and that's where I was raised. We had cattle, we had horses, we had ducks, we had goats, and so and we would share, we would barter, right? So our cow meat for the neighbors' fruits and vegetables. My dad would fish, he'd come home with ahi, his fish for the neighbor's ulu. And so the first thing I'm concerned about is this repealing of this non-dedicated ag exemption. That's going to hurt our mom and pop farmers, right? So that's the first thing I'd like to talk about. Okay. And since I get some minutes, let me just talk a little bit about that. So I hope that we look seriously into that, because I get family that hey, so this exemption, you pay $200 every 6 months, $400 for the year, as opposed to like I get aunties and uncles who pay $4 grand, $3,000-4,000 a year. And so that can just hurt them. And I get some kupuna on pensions. And in the old school, you know, and right now the bill is saying that we need a whole business plan, and then we got to get, you know, like this, it's just so much hurdles. That can hurt our mom and pop farmers and ranchers. So that's one issue. The second thing I would really push for, I'm also an educator. And so, you know, my family is blue collar workers. Like my dad's a plumber, my brother electrician, my son's a mason, my other son's a carpenter. I went to school, and I kept going to school because I wanted to have options. And so, but what's happening in the schools right now is they're limiting the options for our kids to be farmers. Because Monique and I was talking, and our group had Lopaka, had Sadie from Kohala, and you know, we're losing that Future Farmers of America support, so when you graduate from high school, if you take these classes, hey, you're gonna go directly to the university and you're going to specialize in farming. But the county, the state, we gotta support that. Because right now in America, the average age for a farmer is 60 years old, unacceptable. Do you agree? Yeah, same here. But our future farmers, they also need land. So I was talking to Ted Matsud, and I said, hey, you know, we got a good program, the Open Space Fund. That's right on, right? So we believe in open space. But could the county release those funds for the maintenance? Because no sense have land if you cannot malama, right? You guys agree with that too? Okay, so I don't know if PNR is the Parks and Recreation is the best place to hold that money, because they're too busy. And you gotta release those funds so that we can take care of land. Okay, the second thing I'd like to propose, and this is something that I'd like to explore as your mayor, hey, let's use that open space for farmers, right? Why don't we consider that? Would you guys agree on that? Let me see by the sound of applause. Okay. So that's something that our current administration can look at now. You know, we're not gonna wait till November. You're not gonna be your mayor for that. We can wait. We can look at that now. Because that's gonna be important. Because you get the future farmer, right? Hey, he all jazzed up, she all jazzed up. They like to do farming, maybe they like to do ranching, maybe they like to do fishing. And if they like to do ranching and farming and there's no land, then their spirit's gonna be, you know, and then it's like, now you just lost one future farmer. So let us also consider that too. Now, when it comes to water, water is the most important infrastructure. Would you agree on that? Yes. So we gotta really zero in on water. Okay. Now there are all kinds of ways to get water. You can drill for water, but you gotta go back to education. The civil engineers, they look at storm water as a problem. When I went to school in Nebraska, talk about ranching and farming. I spent 5 years in Nebraska. They look at snow and rainfall and storms not as a problem. They look at it as a resource, right? We get engineers making pipes, culverts, everything, and they just like get the water away, right? But in places who understand how to use water, is they divert it, they put them containers, they save them. Right, so we gotta have a different mindset. I was looking at the plans, by the way, we get 3 major plans, and I was like, that's one thing that gotta come together too. So you get the Poor Co, South Kohala Wastewater Management Plan, and then you get the stewardship plan, Kohala Stewardship Plan, and then you get, you know, this Kohala Watershed Plan. I mean, we gotta bring together those plans so that they all make sense across the board. And I'm a planning guy. I get the eye, I can see that, and that's for Kohala. So I'm in it to win it. I get all kind of ideas outside of water, and I get ideas on housing. I get ideas on homelessness. You know, people say, what is my priorities? And I just tell you guys, my priority is you. I tell you why. Because I've been to every community on this island, and every community get a different priority. If I tell you guys homelessness, you might see like, homelessness is not a problem in Kohala. Our problem in Kohala is water, access to land, and access to ranching. So that's why every community different. Now, in Ocean View, I just came from there, they get other issues too. Water's an issue, but they get wild dogs. Okay, some other places, in Puna, Leilani, they get squatters. They're just finding empty houses and people just squatting and acting like it's their house. So every place is different, and the county gotta look at every community as unique. So my priority is you. Whatever your concern is in this community, whatever stress that brings you, and Hawaiians say that kaumaha, I think my job as your mayor is to alleviate that kaumaha, to alleviate that burden. And if I can do that, then I've done my job as your mayor. So again, our campaign, we gain planning momentum. You see my double shaka signs all over. Shaka stands for Save Hawaii and Keep Aloha. And that's what our campaign is all about. That's why I'm running. We got 10 more days before the final. Please make that vote count. Thank you so much for your time, and I cannot wait for answering more of your questions. Aloha!
Yeah, again, so questions are, what have you done to support agriculture on Hawaii Island in the past? And after hearing the panelists of what our North Kohala needs, what is your commitment for the future of agriculture and water resources?
Hello everybody, Mitch Roth, your current mayor. You know, thank you. The question is, what have you done? And you know, it's so great to listen to this panel come up here today, because one of the guys, Dexter Kaneshita, I guess Department of Ag, actually talked about how Hawaii County, as a county, is leading the way in changing the plans for the state, making sure that the state is doing a better job taking care of agriculture. A lot of that has to do with our research and development department. I'd like to recognize our director, Doug Adams. You know, one of the things that our research and development department has done is they've applied for some big grants, Build Back Better. We got $500,000. And you know, when we're looking at funding, we're not just looking at funding for the county, we're looking at funding for different groups. And so part of that, we took some of those funds, and I believe we got some university farm exchange agents that we put on there. We've also did some other things. I know a couple of years ago, I see David over here, I know that they called and said, hey, we need some help with the water. I think we put like $25,000 forward for that. I looked up at the partnerships, and of course the County of Hawaii has been one of the key sponsors to this forum that we're having. So we have been very committed, we continue to be committed to making sure that we are taking care of our farmers and of agriculture. You know, I think as a mayor, you really have to understand the problems and you know what resources you have. And so I know Kimo's talking about the pump, but in order to change the uses on the pump fund, you have to change the charter. And that's a charter amendment. So we can talk about those things. We're very proud of what we've done with our punk lands, our public open space, natural resources lands. We've actually purchased more punk lands during this administration than any administration in the past. And you know, one of those is Mahukona. I saw Keone around here. That was actually one of my only promises that the last time is that we would get Mahukona. We did that, and you guys are just doing an amazing job over there. I think we got the 4 jewels of Kapanaya. So we've actually got, I think, about 4,000 acres of punt land in this last administration. And those lands are really, really important for us because a lot of what we're doing is we're preserving our culture. We've come to a time in history where there's more Hawaiians living out of the state than in the state. And as we lose our Hawaiians, we lose our culture. As we lose our culture, we lose our identity of who we are. And then we become something else. So, you know, we've been working to make sure that we can allow our kids to stay here, raise their kids, and their kids to raise their kids, but putting a priority on our local Hawaiian kids. And one of the things that we did is we brought a group of thought leaders together. We brought Kamehameha schools, some of our charter schools together, and we asked this question: what is it that we can do as a county that would make it so our kids would not only be able to afford to live here, because housing's been a big deal, and we've been working very, very diligently on housing, taking our affordable housing from about 1,243 starts to over 8,100 starts today. That's a huge commitment. But when we talk to the students, and our local Hawaiian students, a lot of them talk about farming, making sure that we're taking care of our Aina. And so, yes, we are looking at how we make that happen. You know, another thing that was talked about was, you know, this ag tax exemption. And again, it's really important to understand what that's all about. So most of you who are farming, actually, anybody who's farming that's worried about their ag taxes going up, if you're farming, you probably have nothing to worry about. So I can answer questions afterwards. You know, as we're looking at this and as we're starting to talk to people, we're finding out that almost everybody who we've talked to has no real issue. And actually, you may have gotten a reduction in your taxes because now your personal house is taxed at a lower rate. So maybe interesting to look and see if it's gone down. So there's been a lot of misinformation, but because there's been misinformation about what's going on, we've asked the council to go back, take a look, because there were actually some really good points. They're not going back to repeal, they're looking at taking that out another year, because the tax actually doesn't even start until 2026, but give people a little bit more time to understand what they need to do. And then there's been some things that people have brought up that are problematic. Those things that we saw that are problematic, we're asking council to address those things so we're taking care of our communities. But the idea behind that was to make sure that it's our farmers who are getting, you know, the deal, and not just people coming from the mainland, putting a horse on their property and then getting your rates. So we wanted to make it fair for everybody. That's what the council's intent was. So being a mayor really takes understanding of the issues, and as far as the water issues, I come away from this very hopeful. One of the things I heard, my big takeaways, is we have 2 aquifers. One has 11 million gallons sustainable yield a day. The other one has 111 million sustainable gallons a day. In each of those aquifers, we're only using 1 million gallons around that. That's great. They talked about doing things in a more updated way, piping into the ditch, so we have a more modernized thing. When I asked how much that's going to cost, we're talking millions, not tens of millions of dollars. That's really promising. When we did our group over here, you know, the one thing that came to me is we need to start figuring out who's going to take the lead and, you know, apply for the grants. The county is willing to be at that table, help facilitate like we've done here, But I think our first step is we need to bring the players together, and the community is part of the players. And so our commitment moving forward with water and agriculture is we want to be at the table, and we want you to be at the table, so you all have a voice. Other than that, I don't want to make this a campaign thing, because we're panelists up here, so I am running for mayor, but I appreciate you listening and really being informed about issues. Really need to listen critically to what is being said and listen for specifics. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a gentle reminder that there will be no questions until we're finished. Mayor candidate Tupai sends his apologies. He had another engagement to go to, so that's why he left early. Next up, we have Monique Pereira, and you need me to read the questions? Okay, so first question is, what have you done to support agriculture on Hawaii Island in the past? And after hearing the panelists of North Kohala needs, what is your commitment for the future of agriculture and water resources?
Hello, everybody. So, quick little information about me. I was born on Oahu and raised in Hilo. And in 2011, I moved to Waimea. And I call myself a townie because my definition of a townie is when there's a hurricane, everybody runs out and buys bottled water. That was me, bottled water and toilet paper. And then when I moved to Waimea, I realized, we have resources available that we shouldn't have to run out and buy these things. I was introduced to the ranching life. We have friends that have, hundreds of heads of cattle, and, introduced to going up there and working ranch and watching these families perpetuate their culture, perpetuate their lifestyle, generations of generations being passed down. And I'm never going back. I am now a country girl with a K, and we have a few cows ourselves, we raise, and it is so important for us to invest in our agriculture and our sustainability of our families here. Every campaign cycle, every politician talks about diversifying our economy, and then we go right back to square one when the election is over. I think the pandemic and just what is happening in our world today should wake us up and make us realize how important our ranchers and farmers are. And yes, Kohala can be the food basket. Kohala, Waimea, we need to incentivize our farmers. Let our farmers build additional dwellings on their property maybe so that they can have cheaper labor. Right now our land is probably worth more than what they produce. We have to change that. We have to make sure that our farmers are incentivized, whether it's subsidies, taxes, however we can make them worthwhile. We need our farmers. We have the perfect climate. I just was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where they have horrendous weather a few months of the year. But when you drive through, they have these beautiful farms, and you're like, they do all of this for 6 months of a year. We have 12 months of a year to enjoy the growing season of our agriculture. Why are we not investing more in agriculture? So really, my platform is to make sure that agriculture is the number one of our economy, to make sure that we are growing to feed our families, to feed our state, make sure that there is enough. We have to work harder and do better for our ranching and farming communities. This panel here was so eye-opening for me, but it just kind of goes to show that we have all the resources to fix our little community situation of water if we just bridge all these gaps and facilitate all these communications. Clean out the invasive species from the rivers, get land resources from our state, get our community to work together so that we can have the water resources. To me, the community is the most powerful thing. All we need is the state and the government to give us our money and leave us alone, and our community can put everything else together, because we are family, and we care about each other. And that's the Hawaiian way, and I believe, the system, the Ahupua'a system, is what we need to bring back, where we farm properly and use our land properly. I think this is kind of where it's going to start, and I think we can do this. We just got to do better. So thank you guys for all your time and for being here. Aloha.
Thank you, Monique. Questions? You need me to read the questions?
No, I can go ahead.
Okay, so what have you done to support agriculture on Hawaii Island in the past? And after hearing the panelists of our North Kohala needs, what is your commitment for the future of agriculture and water resources?
Thank you very much. Aloha, everyone. I'm David Tarnas, the state representative for Kohala. I've served in this position for the last 6 years, and I also served in this position in 1994 to 1998. I took 20 years off so that my wife and I could raise our 2 children without me being gone for half the year at the legislature, because that's what this job requires, is to spend time at the Capitol to represent this district there. I try to make sure I keep you informed. I write an article in the Kohala Mountain News every month so you know what I'm doing, and I also provide every 2 weeks a electronic e-newsletter that if you're subscribed to that, you can keep up with what I'm working on, and I'm happy to add you to that subscription list if you're interested and you're not on it already. What have I done for agriculture in Hawaii County? I served on the Agriculture Advisory Committee to the county in a previous administration and helped to develop the ag plan for Hawaii County. I wanted to run again for office, so I ran again and won in 2018. And since then, I've been working on bills for appropriations for important things to support agriculture in Hawaii County and in Kohala, and regulations, passing laws regarding the regulatory framework regarding agriculture. I've sponsored bills to support appropriations for watershed management to make sure that we've got protected watersheds so that we have water in order to be able to tap water for our water for agriculture. I've also worked on bills to protect the Hawaii brand of mac nuts, coffee, because I think it's important for us if we say that it's mac nuts and it looks like it's from Hawaii, that it actually is from Hawaii. And so I work closely with our Kohala representatives, the Trumps, who are growing mac nuts up here, who are very active in the Mac Nut Association, to help pass. It took years to get this bill through, but we finally got bills through to protect mac nuts in Hawaii and coffee in Hawaii. I was able to get appropriations for some very important agriculture-related investments here in Kohala. What wasn't talked about earlier, I was hoping that we would get more details. I worked with the former state senator, Lorraine Inouye, to get $1.5 million to upgrade the Upolu well, which was a USGS exploratory well, and we got the funds to be able to upgrade it to a production well for agriculture. And I didn't get the update, but as far as I know, it's DLNR was the one who got the money. It's in their engineering division. And I'm told they have selected the contractor. In fact, I was out there just the other day and I see big machines out there on site and it looks like they're starting to work. So I was hoping to get more details today. We didn't. So I'm gonna contact the DLNR folks in engineering tomorrow, get that update and try to include it in my next article in the Kohala Mountain News. My understanding is that this is really just an example of what we can do to diversify our access and sources of water for agriculture. It's going to be very difficult to reconnect to Honokani and the original source of Kohala Ditch. And so I did work with our current state senator, Tim Richards, who was here earlier, to get the $10 million in funds, which was to help to repair the ditch. And he just informed us today that the governor and the administration chose not to release that money because they wanted to use that funding capacity for Lahaina, for Maui, to recover from the fire. So we may have to go back and get those funds again. But I want to emphasize, it's not going to be easy to get the ditch back to the way it used to be. We were spoiled. very low-cost water, coming out of the ditch. So I think we're going to have to sort of re-envision about what this ditch is going to be. And it may be, as it was mentioned earlier, it'll be a pipe. We have to increase the number of sources that we can come up with the water to be able to feed the new ditch. And it may be springs, streams, but we have to make sure that if we take anything out of those springs and streams, that we don't negatively affect downstream uses, whether it's environmental values, cultural uses. So those are all the things that we have to pay attention to when we do that. But the 1.5 million that we got for the Upolu well upgrade was to show as an example of what we can do in different areas to bring in water for agricultural use. I was also able to get funding. This was previous session, grant and aid for the processing facility up here in Kohala for agricultural. I think it was done through HIP Ag, if I remember correctly, where people would consolidate agricultural products. It could be cleaned and be able to use so they could sell it to the schools, because you have to meet certain standards under the Food Safety Modernization Act to do that. One of the big things that, in order to make farming work well, is you need to have a good market that's dependable. And so from the state side, we've got schools, prisons, and hospitals that buy a lot of food. And so I've been really pushing them to establish long-term purchase agreements with farmers so that farmers can plan ahead and say, okay, we know that we're going to sell this much, this product, and we've got a long-term purchase agreement. So we can invest as farmers into the seed, into all the labor, because it takes a long time to be able to produce a crop, and you need to have as much dependability as possible. So that's another thing I've been pushing for. Invasive species and have really devastated a lot of different agricultural operations. And so this year, we appropriated the most amount of money we've ever done into Department of Ag, into invasive species. The governor actually cut it in half. We put in 20 million, he cut it in half, and he did a line item veto and reduced that to 10 million. It's still a very substantial amount of money. And so I'm working with the Department of Agriculture to make sure they spend that money so we can prevent alien species from coming in, and we can reduce the impact of invasive species. Do I have just another minute left? Okay, 3 minutes left. Other things that I've been able to bring in, funding I've been able to bring in, is funding for the legacy lands funding, so that we can purchase some of these things like Mahukona, some of these properties. The county was talking about the PONC funding. Well, the state has a legacy lands funding, and we have one of the commissioners here, and I appreciate Kohala actually has voices on these commissions, which is really important. Beth, wave your hand. She's our commissioner on the Legacy Lands Commission, so thank you for your service there. You know, one of the things too is that I want to see that if we have tourism up here, we have visitors who come up here, that they don't have a negative impact on our community. Honolulu is it's a magnet, but it's over visited. It's like visitors, there's too many of them, and it's causing too much trouble. We had to figure out a way to manage the number of visitors up there. So I was able to get $500,000 to do a community-based planning process to figure out how we do that, and work with the community to be able to develop that, so that we could have visitors that come here, but maybe that they don't all drive to the end of the road. They may drive to one place and take a shuttle to the end of the road. And that when they're here, they can buy from the local restaurants, local stores, and actually spread out the economic benefits of tourism, so it doesn't all go to just one place, that everybody can benefit from it more readily. Other things that drive up the cost of living up here is healthcare. So one of the things I was able to do is to get funding for Kohala Hospital to expand and build another facility for some new scanning equipment that they're bringing in, and their administrative facility. I was also able to get funding for the Hamakua Kohala Health Center to help pay for their infrastructure, their new clinic up here in Kohala that they're building. And these are all things to help make our community more affordable. This is an expensive place to live, I get it. And we did pass a bill that would require the counties to allow people, if they choose to build a second dwelling on residential land in the urban district. I know we don't have any of that up here, but that was the first step. And I think
1 minute.
One of the things I'm really pushing for is that we allow the same thing on agricultural land. There's a lot of pushback about that. But I think most of the land that we've got out here is agricultural land. And I think there are people that would like to be able to have additional dwellings on there, whether it's for family members or for labor. That's what we need to do. So I've been grateful to be able to serve as your representative. I'd like to continue doing that work, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to tell you of the work that I've done. And I work for you, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. Thanks everyone for coming. Mahalo.
Thank you, David. Next up, we'll have Cindy Evans. Cindy, you need me to read the questions?
No, I don't. Thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. I think it's evening. It's been a long day. Aloha. I thought kind of the best way to use my time is to do it by storytelling. You know, I grew up in a farming culture in Illinois. I've been around farmers, my grandparents, my aunts and uncles, and what I know is it's a lifestyle choice. My hat's off to anyone who's a farmer in here because you have an incredible work ethic, and I know you work 7 days a week. That's what it takes. It's a wonderful lifestyle. As a matter of fact, my husband has chosen to be a farmer, and I've watched him up here in Kapa'au for the last 4 years develop a farm. And through his experience, I've learned how hard it is to stand up a farm. For those of you who really want to farm and you don't do it yet, but you have a calling to it, I have to tell you it takes commitment, persistence, and a lot of skill sets to make it successful. So number one is you gotta have money. If you don't have money, it's not gonna work for you. But money comes, what's great is your congressional delegation right now and your state delegation understands that it takes money to make farms. And so there's great loan programs, there's great grant programs where you don't even have to spend the money. You don't have to give them the money back. And there's, especially for beginning farmers, the legislature at the state level was very clear in that standing up a small beginning farmer has to have money. So you can apply for grants. I noticed recently they just put out a new other program, USDA, I believe, or anyway, the federal government, and we've got Doug Adams here, who has an ag specialist in the Office of R&D. So maybe you can help when people call and ask where this grant money is at. But there is money for you if this is really what you want to do. But it gets more complicated than that. Why? It's more than money. If you're going to build anything of size, you have to have labor. Right now, we are so challenged up here in Kapa'au not having a labor force. Now, when I was a legislator, I served as a legislator for 16 years. I was very concerned about woofing up here in North Kohala because woofing was the way you got farm labor. But woofing was these universities across the United States would put in the student lounge, come to Hawaii and be a woofer. And, you know, they're signed up as, you know, and these people, they're accredited, you know, these farms have signed up for it. Then you go out there, it's a great time, you come, you live on a farm, you work for the farmer, and you get a place to live and you get your food. But you don't get paid money, but you get an experience, right? So we had a lot of woofers up here in North Kohala. People were coming to me that were woofers saying, we have some really concerns because why? The housing, they were living in tents, they didn't have bathrooms. I mean, so I was concerned. I worked with the Department of Agriculture and said, what are we going to do about this? Because the labor force is a huge issue if you want to be a farmer, right? So that's the other thing. And so now you've got farming as an issue. But I have to tell you, one of the things that I've learned is we have wonderful nurseries on this island that give you your seeds. They give you seeds, they give you crops. Now, let's talk about farming. Do you want to be a cattle, sheep, pigs? Do you want to do trees and be a tree orchard, which is what my husband chose? Do you want to be in the ground? Do you want to be vertical and hydroponic? Do you want to be aquaculture? What is the farming of your choice? Now, if you know what that is, I want you to know, again, I'm going to call on you, Doug Adams, there is Office of Research and Development, ag specialists, there's people at the Department of Agriculture, there's people that we pay that sit there waiting for you to call them to help you Put together your farm plan, your business plan. What are you gonna do to roll it out? Because to be a farmer, you have chosen to be a small business person. And believe me, you can have a wonderful lifestyle. You can probably net $100,000 to $200,000 a year, which may be more than adequate for you and your family, but if you live on the land. So then it gets down to the big question that everybody asks me when I come up here: where's the land? We got 20 acres. Who can buy 20 acres up here? It's a lot of money, right? It's expensive, the land up here. So how do you get it down into 5-acre parcels, 1-acre parcels? How do you get it to where it's reasonable so that you can get on the land? That becomes a huge question for us. I have a lot of ideas on it. We have people up here that are talking to community land trusts. Land trusts are people that buy the land, they set it aside, and they have it available for possibly the farmers to come out and don't charge them maybe $100 a year, but their duty or their want is to get people on the land. So we do have land trusts that are looking at parcels of land up here. The other thing is we have county land and we have state land. Does the county and the state want to take that land and develop a program to allow what people call today, we heard him talk about it, agricultural parks? Does the county want to go into the ag park business? Can't answer that for them yet, but it is an opportunity to use our county land that we have up here, put it into an ag park, and then to divvy it up and try to do 1-acre leases to people who want to get on the land. So the question is, are you being a farmer because you want nutritious food for your family and be what they call subsistence farming? This is how you feed your family. Or do you want to turn it into business and sell your produce at farmers markets, which I want you to know we're big on farmers markets at the county level. We want to get more farmers markets. We want to get more of the nutritious food out for people to buy. That's an initiative that we really want. So the question is, again, is how do you get it to market? So what happened? So my husband plants 400 ulu trees here, 400. So what happens? What do you do with all the fruit? What do you do with all the breadfruit? Well, so then you start thinking, do I value add? Do I turn it into chips? Do I turn it into hummus? Do I turn it into ice cream? What do I do with it? Because that's a lot of fruit. So the good news is that at the legislature, at the county level, we have supported what's called the Ulu Co-op. The Ulu Co-op that's down in Kona takes anybody's ulu. If you have 1 or 2 trees, you can take your ulu your ulu to the co-op. They will buy it. So one of the big things that's happened over the last 10 to 20 years is we developed food hubs. We've been developing food hubs, and we've been developing co-ops. And the reason for that is because if you're going to give food to the prisons or to the schools or and to the government, the federal government at PTA, you got to have enough, and they have to believe it's reliable, that it'll always show up when they place the order. The way they do it is through food hubs and food co-ops. They talk to all the people in the neighborhood, in West Hawaii, whatever, whoever is growing it, and said, bring your stuff to us. We will bring it all together, and we will deliver it to the buyers. So that's the market piece that I think we've done a pretty good job, and we're still working on that to make sure that we grow more food, but we get the food to market so it doesn't get wasteful. But production has been a huge issue. How do you value add? The state legislature, again, through Donovan Dela Cruz, has really been thinking, working with community colleges about how do we teach people to add value to the food. Are they going to make tomatoes and turn it into salsa? Are they going to grow something and turn it into a food product? Or what are they going to do? So the community college has been a huge, huge partner in this, because why? Community college is teaching young people to come in. How do you take what you have and how do you add value to it, and then how do you brand it? Oh my God, branding. That's a huge thing in Hawaii. Branding. Hawaiian grown, you can charge more money. Hawaiian grown, tourists like it, right? So we've been into branding. Your Department of Agriculture has a branding department that works really, really hard to say Hawaiian grown and branding. Because people want it. So, okay, what else to tell you about farming? Okay, so invasive species. So now my husband's talking about doing avocado. Well, guess what? The coconut rhinoceros beetle arrived on our island and they like avocado. So now what are we talking about? What are we going to do? Because avocado now has been discovered on this island. How do we make sure it doesn't get to the farm up here in Kohala, which I'm telling you, it would hurt all of our avocados up here. How do we protect the avocado from getting up here? So the rhinoceros beetle, that's a
15
big deal
seconds.
for us. Your congressional delegation just, I think Brian Schatz put a ton of money for us to fight these invasive species, but we have to get it on the island. That's the other thing, is your government, through your mayor, and through his administration, works hard.
Thank you, Cindy.
We have to get the money to us. Thank you.
Next up, we have James Hustis, District 9. James, you need me to read the questions, or you're good?
Aloha kako. Thanks everyone. Thanks for being here. My name is James Hustis. First one on Mahalo Nui. Uncle David, thank you for organizing today's event. This has been a really fabulous event to learn from our experts in the field. I really want to mahalo all the volunteers that really helped put this on, the movie that put this on. So, and thank you all for staying and sticking around, really hearing from us here on some of our thoughts on more of the political side of things and how we drive policy forward, and really learn from you as we push ideas forward for the benefit of the community. One thing they touched on in my bio a little bit, and I'll kind of capture that here. I was born on Oahu, and I moved to Waimea in 1994. So I grew up in Waimea, it's been 30 years now. And I grew up on a small farm. We've raised sheep through the years. That's really been the main piece there. We've had some llamas through the years, of course, but sheep was really that main piece. And the challenge that I ran into, and the challenge that I think a lot of small farmers run into, is really access to markets, processing, and getting things out there for the community. That was really something that hampered our farm in terms of getting things out there and selling it. At the end of the day, we only could really sell it to neighbors, friends, people that we knew. And of course, processing that sort of meat and material, have to take it out the hilo side. So that was a challenge in the early days of kind of our small farm there. Well, some things I wanted to touch on about ag here, and I think it's very lofty and very valiant of North Kohala. Your goals of 50% of your food is grown here in North Kohala. I think, we've heard about from the panels before, but that's something that the rest of the state can look at and strive for, looking at the models that you put here in your community, and you strive and move forward. 40% of our households on Hawaii Island are food insecure. This is a staggering number, and it's something that when we take our models here in North Kohala, across Hawaii Island, we need to support these initiatives, support across North Kohala and the community here. Some of those efforts, when we're talking about expanding agriculture, we're talking about improving the pipeline of goods to market. I think one of the biggest hurdles and challenges we have, and it's been highlighted a couple times today, is the age of our farmers and our ranchers and those working the fields and getting their hands dirty. And there's some really amazing people in our communities that are driving this education pipeline to really encourage the next generation, to really improve our understanding of how we work the land, and then really get our kids and our keiki involved in agricultural systems and see how they can be a farmer or a rancher in the future, at least trying to understand that this could be a possibility for them. That this is something that they could understand and really understand and work the land and really be a part of the process that feeds the community, and that is a part of striving for these food self-reliance goals and really feeding our communities at the end of the day. Part of that, and I've supported in the Waimea community with Mala'ai Garden through the years. There are other models that we can support in the communities with our school gardens, our community gardens, and these are avenues that can help feed our community, really drive some of an opportunity to bring the produce that you're growing to those opportunities in those markets and really help the marketplace in a whole. Here in North Kohala, I've been fortunate to attend a number of the Ag Working Group meetings, so thank you for leading those meetings and participating in that and really being part of the conversation to help drive policy forward, trying to find solutions. And of course also with the affordable housing group here, and some of those conversations have been about really protecting your important ag lands here in North Kohala. Some of your more Makai portions below Konikuli Highway, making sure that we're preserving those from development and making sure that those are the premier ag lands that can be used for development of our ag produce and ag goods. And then from there, we have to work with our state partners in opportunities for workforce housing across some of those spaces as well that will solve some of those other challenges there. And then that also raises the question about land tenure. I think that's been a big issue for the community here. How to get people on the land, how do they keep the land, whether it's through long-term leases, and really working with nonprofits to help guide that lease process and making sure that people can afford to stay there for a long time and help through the negotiations of working the land and owning land and being really good stewards of this space. And it is important to connect our farmers or those interested in the farming aspect with these key resources, whether it's USDA or NRCS, and making sure they have those avenues to finance the projects they want to on their land and then move forward from there. There's also opportunity to support our county research and development, providing more ag support in a sense that there'll be staffing there to then be able to support the community members that are looking for those opportunities for funding research purposes and resources. We have a lot of potential here in North Kohala. Attending a couple of the ag working group meetings, talking to Uncle Frank Palani Cipriani about ideas of aquaculture. Those ideas also be folded into the mix about this really robust and diverse system of ag in our communities here. And the last aspect I want to touch on ag is our commercial kitchens. And I think the Kohala Food Hub has a really premier aspect of the community that we can look to as a model for other communities across Hawaii Island that can help our farmers have a place to process their food and then be able to get it to the marketplace. So we need to kind of support those initiatives across Hawaii Island. Then moving into water a little bit, attending the utilities working groups here in North Kohala for your North Kohala Community Development Plan groups. Water redundancy and utility redundancy is really a key piece of community resilience, disaster preparedness, and making sure that our well systems have generators, that they are properly maintained, and that's really a partnership that we have done with the Department of Water Supply for those potable wells, but really making sure that the community can survive through these PS events that we're going to experience or extreme weather events, and then making sure that North Kohala can sustain itself during those disaster times. One of the projects, and it was highlighted in my biography as well, is the Waimea Stream Trail project. And this is my connection, my personal connection to water in a different sort of sense. I mean, it is a stream trail where the trail really, along the corridor of the Waikoa Stream across South Kohala. Last year, the committee took the stream trail project to the PONC, Public Access Open Space Natural Resource Commission, and we applied to extend the Waimea Trail. If you're familiar with it, it's a 1 mile trail in the core of Waimea town down to our coastal waters to connect to the Kahakai Trail. And it was approved and accepted by the commission. Thank you. And that's really one of those key pieces. Thank you. I see you, Chris. Thank you. Of preserving our streams and our riparian zones. I think as a county, we can have greater policy about protecting some of those important waterways and those water aspects in our community. And it would create a greenway and a green belt, kind of like a setback from those spaces, and really conserve and preserve a lot of those unique spaces. And then attending, I believe some of our Seaworm team is still here, but attending the water meeting in Waimea a couple months back, there's a partnership to be had with our state entities. I think there could also be a partnership between DWS or Water Supply, County Water Supply, and our state waters and state water Seaworm to really protect our upland watershed. Dr. Aaron talked about some of these monitoring sites. On the Waikoa Stream, that tributary, there's only maybe 1 or 2 that are functioning, and we have water that's being diverted out of it for certain reasons, for ranching and agricultural reasons. But we really need to understand the water that's available in those stream heads, and then what it means for the community to protect that. And so really fund and support those monitoring sites. So that's really a partnership to be had with our state entities as well, to ensure that we understand the health of our watershed and what we can naturally pull out of it that doesn't impact and affect kind of the downstream partners there. And then up here in North Kohala, the conversation about the ditch is staggering. And I know the strain and the stress we've been dealing with through those different events that have impacted the ditch. And there's really a greater partnership and potential we could have with our large landowners in the community here, and ownership of the community to maintain and take care of the ditch as a whole. So I know there were efforts through, Mr. Richards'
1 minute.
water service, and really the survey and the study that was done, funded by the state partners, to understand the impact of the ditch and how to bring it up to speed and really repair it. I know that's been hampered by recent events, but there's a potential for community to be a greater partner in maintenance and ownership of that space that can feed our agricultural systems here. So thank you for being here once again. I really appreciate all of you for listening and sticking with us. Mahalo nui. Aloha.
Thank you, James. Lastly up here is Michael Collins, District 9.
Aloha, Kohala. I have a tough job here. You've listened to 7 politicians go on for nearly an hour, and I'm standing in front of the taste of Kohala, so this is a very tough position. So can everyone do me a favor? Can everyone just stand up just for a moment and just wiggle a little? Make sure you're alive, stretch. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, I'm not an exercise coach. I am professionally a weatherman, and it's my job to understand complex weather issues and earth science challenges. And through my environmental journalism work and my general earth science work, of course, I have an affinity for water, just as everyone here in the ag industry. Without water, I have no livelihood. So professionally, I've been very busy reporting on different agriculture, environment, and water issues, both for the Big Island and the state, as well as the mainland and a broader audience. But politically, I'm actually going to throw Senator Richards under the bus a little bit. He actually got me involved in some politics years ago when he was councilman. He was looking for help, community testimony on some herbicide concerns that could have negatively impacted this community. So he invited me and others to actually come in and testify. And I did that, and I've been testifying ever since. I've been very active in both the county council and with the state ledge on supporting bills that really support you and support the needs of the community. One of those being the ag bills that Representative Tarnas just met. And I think I testified in that, and I believe I was behind a testifier from Kohala who said you wouldn't find someone selling champagne outside of Champagne, France, and you wouldn't find someone selling a Burgundy out of Burgundy, France. But why do you find so many people being casual with the Hawaii brand? Why isn't there stricter legislation supporting the Hawaii brand to the value it deserves, which is what Councilwoman Evans had said. So on issues like that and other issues that are important in the community, not only do I have a loud mouth and talk at these meetings, but I like to rally and gather support from others in the community. And I do that regularly on all sorts of agriculture and environmental issues. Just a couple of months ago, I orchestrated a community talk story, like a lunch and learn. There's all this talk of drought coming to the Big Island, so I thought this would be a great talk story. So Senator Richards came to represent agriculture and water. I had Tom Magno from Civil Defense talk about threats that drought has to our community. I had the chair of the Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization there. Also, Dan from the Division of Land and Natural Resources talked about the impacts that drought and lack of water could have on state properties. And also flew in a meteorologist from the National Weather Service office in Honolulu who gave us insight on what we can expect with precipitation in this district and island-wide throughout the upcoming summer and fall. And unfortunately, it doesn't look very good. But I really enjoy doing that. I enjoy not necessarily being an expert in everything, but being able to tap into other experts who can arm me and the community with insights and knowledge. And I like not only rallying community support, but also getting the community to do something about it. So what was exciting in this drought talk story is people left knowing things that they can do to conserve water, things that they can do to help the ag industry, and things that they can just do around the house to be a little more aware of the environment around them. And one other thing I do on the side that not too many people know is there's a Facebook and an Instagram account called Grinds Insiders. And what I do, along with others on the island, is we actually go around and profile different restaurants and restaurant news and foodie news all around the island. And I do that because, as you can see, I love to eat. But I also love to support all the fishermen and the ranchers and the farmers that are filling up all our local restaurants with all the local fruits of your labor. So it's not just to celebrate and honor all the people in the restaurant industry and all their culinary artistry on this island, but it's also to celebrate the agriculture world that supports them. And it's so funny, I'll go to Fresh Off the Grid. I went there for lunch today. I didn't drop a picture on Instagram what I had for lunch there yet. But when I do it, it moves the needle. And I actually heard from one restaurant at one of the resorts, they said, be a little careful with what you say, because they actually sold out of availability of a special farm-to-table dinner that this resort does. So I appreciate being able to move the needle, even with a side gig like that. But as far as water and what I got out of today, I was very optimistic with what I heard during the panels. To hear all this talk about the abundance of water in this district was incredible. And we really are not just a breadbasket for this part of the island, but we really have the potential to be a tremendous breadbasket for the entire state. But then the optimism went a bit away in the breakout group. And the breakout group was a little pessimistic because we talked about some other concerns that are over agriculture in this district, the affordability crisis and the lack of affordable homes. And if people can't afford to even live here, or even afford to live here to work here, who are we farming for? And we really need to figure out these big problems that are facing the island. So I'm personally concerned and very committed to figuring out solutions in the affordable housing crisis we have. I'm also concerned about other real big crises that are facing all of us in this community, like infrastructure. And infrastructure means different things to different people. One thing that's a pressing infrastructure issue is what's going on with the big cesspool deadline and how are we going to fund this mandate? How are we really going to invent $20, $30, maybe $60,000 to remedy this on our properties? And I don't feel like there's enough attention being spent on issues like that. And just more investment in local issues, our local roads and our local parks. I had the opportunity to spend this morning with the Malama Mahukona team, and I applaud all their efforts to date. But it's been 5 years and the beach pavilion still isn't demolished. And just to sit through and hear some of the reasons why that is, I just started boiling below the surface. Uncle Jeff had me on the radio last Thursday, and I talked about I'm a person of a lot of aloha, but there's this rage that's building beneath the surface because I'm so frustrated and angry that our leaders aren't doing enough to move the needle with things like affordable housing, or it takes 5 years to demolish a beach park. So what I want to do is bring a sense of urgency, and I want to bring a fight to the county council. I want to amplify your voices and your concerns. I want to rally you to help me fight with other council people or the mayor or other state or federal resources for the needs we need. We need a fighter here to get attention away from some other districts around the island that tend to get more love and more funds. And that's what I'm signing up to do. I love being a weatherman.
1 minute.
I love that career, but I made a personal commitment that I want to make sure that Hawaii is better than what I found it in. And so by running for office and fighting for the things that you want and need, I feel like I can make Hawaii and this district a little better than what it is today. So thank you so much. And be sure to look on my Facebook and Instagram of my reviews of whatever the delicious food is coming out of the Taste of Kohala tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. All right. Let's give another hand to our candidates. Thank you all for coming out today. And yeah, you guys are how? Next I'm going to call up Leslie Nugent to give us some of the results from the breakout sessions.
Thank you so much to all our panelists, to all those who are currently serving and who have served and are serving as well. I really appreciate you being here today. So, our amazing community champion and mentor and friend, Bob Agris, was gonna do this share back. He was nominated by Uncle David. But I guess that's what it's like anytime you have an amazing teacher and mentor in your life. At some point, you get past the opportunity to step into new goals and growth. So I'm going to share a little bit about the debrief that our facilitation team just had. It was just in the time that the candidate panel has been happening here, so it was quick. We are going to compile all the information and we'll make that available on a Google Doc that we'll share out in our email list. So if you guys registered online for this event or if you signed in today, then we have your email and you'll be getting those communications so you can check it out for yourself. And I apologize for having my phone, but the chart paper had too many pages and all those things. So that's what I'm looking at, the notes that we took here. And again, this is not just me, this is all of our facilitation team that compiled this. So first of all, there was a lot of excitement and enthusiasm. And there was a lot of gratitude for all the panelists who came and shared. And thank you to those who are still here in the crowd with us. We really appreciate your time. There was a request for more visuals, a desire to see more maps, to understand more about the landscape and past and current water systems. There was definitely interest in another water summit and or more conversations in order to figure out how we do this. We need to have more conversations, highlighting the things that the community doesn't know about. The panelists were really, having panelists here was really eye-opening for folks, right? Folks got to put faces with names, understand a little bit more about what different organizations do, but there's still a lot of interest. People want more of that. People want to understand where to get the information and how do they navigate where to get that information. There's a lot of like, okay, we have all these different entities, but where's the one place where we can find all the answers? And so I don't know what that is, but there's that curiosity of like, who holds this information and then what is the community's role in that? So there was a lot of interest in finding ways to have ongoing conversations with the panelists and the experts who are in the room today. How can we continue to have that conversation with our community in that dialogue? There's also a lot of openness right now. There was, some of the facilitators noticed a greater interest today than we've seen in some of the other sessions that we've held around alternatives to just the ditch being the only solution for water in Kohala. So there was a lot of conversation around honoring the traditional ecological knowledge as a guiding force, recognizing that the forest is really important in the water cycle. The ideas of like adopt a stream or kind of like self-monitoring, how do we have community-based monitoring of these precious resources. There was interest in alternatives besides the ditch, such as reservoirs, the idea of smaller shared use wells, curiosity about the Upodu well, curiosity about the reservoir, Malpa of Lincoln, interest in redundancy in hybrid systems, interest in systems that have a backup generators, how do we understand how to make these systems resilient? There was an interest in more information on that. There was a lot of excitement today about the ADC. I think a lot of people learned for the first time or re-engaged with the Agribusiness Development Corporation and what's possible for that partnership and support here in Kohala. There's also curiosity, like could the ADC or could Hawaii Department of Agriculture be the entity that manages the ditch? What would that take and what would that look like? Obviously, there's a desire to get farmers on land and more food being produced and consumed. So what does that look like? What are the kind of ownership and lease structures we can explore? We've heard about ag parks today, but again, the interest in ag parks. There's excitement to explore funding solutions, like what options are out there to fuel some of the vision for